I don't want to fucking do television. I'm a movie director, I said.
I'm Danielle Forte with Pop Culture Planet, and I'm excited to get to talk to you about your new film, Spaceman. I would love to know what drew you to this script and particularly this story.
Michael Parrott's who's the producer on this film, who developed this, before I even knew him. Him and I are now partners. We have a production company together, but, he developed this starting some 5 years ago and made a first draft of his script that he sent to me together with a book. And I had just come out of a very long, very taxing project that I had, spent 2 years on or something like that. I was really tired and depleted, and we were like kind of sort of almost decided like to take either a long break or even quit my job and do something else that doesn't sort of eat me up to the extent that this does. But then the script came along and I read it and I was like, holy shit, we have to do this. This is great. I read the book also, and the reason, there's a lot of things that drew me to it. The first thing being that it's a story that very relatable for me, because on one end you have somebody who's ego and narcissism and vanity kind of causes him to have issues in his relationships, but it's also somebody who has no choice, who has these ambitions that are bigger than success or anything like that. It's a drive to do something that he just has to do, and in this case, he's an explorer. He has to go and check out this cloud. So the interesting thing is, like, I both despise him and I understand him as a character. And then in terms of Lenka, his wife, though, who represents the other end of the relationship here, I fully understand her, because she is, she went into this with an agreement, saying like, you go where I go and I go where you go, and that's how we roll. We're both gonna do our things, but we have to sometimes, say no to something, to your own wants and needs, in order to help that other person out. And I just believe that that's the secret of all relationships, which is that that you are ambitious with your own things, and that your own wants or needs are very important, but you must never fail to see the needs and wants of those who are near you. So
Previously worked on notable music video sets as well as TV sets such as Breaking Bad to Walking Dead. How did that experience help you in directing Spaceman? I mean, your second film.
well, I mean, those TV shows you're talking about are like 20 years ago. So and after that I did a number of limited series in which I directed everything from A to Z, and limited series are basically a very long feature film chopped into, one of them I did was 3 parts, one was 5, one was 8, and so on and so forth. What it is that it's an A to Z, it's an arc of a feature film, but it's just drawn out, and it has a more in depth when it comes to characters and stuff like that. So my those really early days of working on episodical TV, I mean, I guess it helped out a little bit in terms of like understanding how it is to work with scripted material and so on and so forth. But again, my journey from those days have for the last 15 years has been very, very different, in the projects that I've been doing. So as much as I owe Vince Gilligan a lot for taking me under his wings for during the Breaking Bad days, and he was kind of the one who, because I said like, I don't want to fucking do television. I'm a movie director, I said. And he said, well, tell me this then. Would you rather, in waiting for your next movie, what would you rather do? Film some stupid music video or actually work with scripted material and real actors? And I go like, yeah, I think you have a point there, Vince. So I ended up doing one episode per season of Breaking Bad, because I didn't want to do more, because I did not want to get trapped in the TV world. But it was very, it was incredible to work with, Bryan Cranston and Aaron Paul and all these amazing actors, and Vince, who's an absolute genius in terms of talking about storylines and what to do. So of course I learned a lot, but so that was kind of the very first step of my development in becoming, a director, But then I pretty shortly after that realized that for me, what is interesting is the whole thing, the A to Z, the populating a film with a cast and figure out the locations and doing everything, So that's what I've been doing for the past 10, 15 years or 10, 12 years or whatever. And then the skip over to Spaceman is pretty natural, or pretty simple, because it's the same machinations. It's just a little different from a schedule point of view. Chernobyl had 120 shooting days. Spaceman had 40. You know what I mean? So it's like it's a little more manageable, I guess. You know.
Well, yeah, and I mean, speaking of that, so you could say there are parallels between your series Chernobyl and this film. So have you always had a fascination towards the kind of darker dystopian stories, and more specifically narrowing in on the dark times of the 70s and 80s and exploring what humans were really scared of at that time?
I'm definitely very much drawn to the darker side of stuff. Everything I've ever done has, you know, is definitely has shadows lurking within them. I have no interest in stuff, the light stuff or levity or anything like that. The fact that both Chernobyl and Spaceman has dips, you know, well, Chernobyl is very much, mid 80s Soviet Union, but in Spaceman there are, one, through line that is dealing with that to some extent. That is actually just accidental, because the writer of the book, Yaroslav Kelfar, is from the Czech Republic, and when he wrote The Spaceman of Bohemia, which is the source of this film, he, part of that book is dealing with his own sort of, confrontation slash atonement with what happened, within his own country when the Soviet Union fell in 1990, 91. So it became a part of it, and the book deals with that to a much bigger extent. But I wanted to keep some of it to be true to the book, basically, But if this book would have been the exact same book but written by a South Korean author, that would then have been, part of this film. Whatever sort of cultural, relevant historical aspects of that would have been part of the film instead of this, of the Soviet of it all. So that was actually more accidental than anything else.
Wow, interesting. Yeah, and I'd
Yeah,
also love to hear about how this cast came together, Paul Dano and Adam Sandler.
Carrie, Mulligan, um, uh, Adam. He was obviously first on board. Came together quite sort of through serendipity, I think. I had a general meeting. I had a couple of days of general meetings with actors in LA, not for this project specifically, just meeting actors as you do, to see, you shoot some shit and then you see if you want to dance. And I had this meeting with him because I really like him as an actor. And we had this conversation and we had an immediate connection. And he started asking me about, like, I heard you're doing the space film, and I tell him about it. And he's like, dude, this sounds amazing. This is, that's my story. I've been this ambitious person. I've been on the road, on sets, on all that kind of stuff, whilst trying to manage a family. And I don't feel understood either when I'm on the road or amongst my family. And I'm kind of I got to do this film. So, we were, very quickly, Adam was on board. And then Carrie Mulligan, because I'm just like, I'm a massive fan of her. I've always been a massive fan of her, and she felt like the perfect candidate for this role. And she also has a certain sort of darkness, and there's something kind of melancholic over her that I thought was really fitting for this. And then Paul, it was such an easy choice. His cadence, his weird kind of, the way he speaks, the fact that he's a tiny bit creepy in a lot of his roles, and also kind of in some of them also a little bit pathetic, and all that kind of stuff. He was the perfect candidate for Hanush, and so I contacted him, and he's an adventurous actor. He does, a lot of different kind of, particular and specific things. So he was really, tantalized by the idea from the onset, and so it all was pretty straightforward, to be honest, I think.
Yeah. And I was gonna actually ask, so like, do you think comedic actors, because Adam Sandler obviously is known for comedies mostly, do you think comedic actors have a knack for drama?
I mean, I think you can flip that around and say that, yeah, of course they have an act for drama. That's just, if you're an actor, you're an actor. You can kind of embody anything you want. But what happens is, if you're a comedian, in the eye of the audience, is that, when you kind of strip them of the comedy bits of it, these actors become more vulnerable and more naked than a dramatic actor would be, to some extent. And I think we've seen that through film history, in several several, films, Peter Sellers in Being There, or Jim Carrey in Eternal Sunshine, and even Charlie Chaplin in some of his work, and there's just something really, really compelling as an audience when that comedian, it's like that clown after the circus when he washed off the makeup and we see the real human behind all of it. I think there's elements and aspects of that really works when they do fall into these kind of roles. And in Adam's case, I think it's like super evident. He's so subtly fragile and lonely and lost in his position in space in this film, and I couldn't wish for any better actor ever than this.